What I want to talk about very quickly is one of our newest sponsors, and it's MOVO. Today, I'm going to show you the Wireless Mini Duo, which fits on your camera very well. It looks like this on your camera. Okay. So this has two other components that goes with it, and it looks like this, right? Here's your other two transmitters, and that is your receiver. So it's out the way. You can clip it onto your shirt like so. If I clip it down far enough, it's kind of out of the view, right? If I want to show it, I can show it. I can also put the lapel to them on the bottom via USB-C. And again, yeah, two transmitters, one receiver. It comes with windscreen. Um, very important. If you're on a windy day, we all know if you have the puh or the buh, right, you get that in the mic. But again, this is a lifesaver, and it is literally slides over the unit like so, right? That's what that looks like. That's there. You also come with a traveling case. Very nice, very handy. Has USB-C cords as well, right? So to charge up the units, you have three pieces to charge up. Now, there is another model to this that we will be trying soon, and we will be trying out one of the recording mics for the in-house stuff that we do. So again, this is one of our newest sponsors. Thank you so much, MOVO, for sending something out. And we wanted to plug you all, wanted to shout you out this as we have more stuff coming in the mail today for them. So as soon as we get it in, we'll be doing the unboxing as well. Thank you for watching. And again, let's continue on with the video. Hey, everyone. So we're going to give everyone a second to come on in as we. All right. Hey, everyone. So we're going to give everyone a second to come on in. So as you all are coming in, please share this. This is a really cool pleasure and a really cool thing that's going on. We have been promoting this, advertising this everywhere, and we'll give everyone a second to kind of get on in here then. And that's the crazy world about social media, right? Telling everyone to come on in like it's your house, you know?
Yeah, right. Well, it is. I mean, they're coming in our homes.
Right,
Well,
right.
welcome to the couch.
Right, right, you know, and but that's, as we're just kind of waiting for people to come in, isn't it crazy how technology, which I mean has its goods and its bads, pros and cons. I think the pro is you can be anywhere in the world, talk to somebody, you go back 20 some 30 some years ago, this really wasn't even a possibility beside a phone call,
We'd
so
be pen pals.
you're right.
We'd be writing each other letters, handwriting them. And now
Right.
AI will do that for us.
Right, right. And that's crazy too, right? So we'll go ahead and get started as more people come in. For those that do not know, this is a wonderful person. She has her biography. I mean, it's pages long, and that is really no lie here. And so, Kinga, can you kind of tell us who you are? If people don't know who you are, what you've done, what you're doing, but can you tell us who you are first?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people have no clue who I am, so I will definitely start with that. I have been working in television for probably the last 23 years, okay, but I've also had the opportunity for probably the last 15 years to work in shark and ocean conservation. So I'm a bit of a hybrid in that space, but most of the work that I do in television is in the travel, adventure, nature, wildlife, anthropology space. My background is journalism, emphasis in anthropology. And I love the ocean so very much. So okay, I've had the pleasure to work with the National Geographics and the BBCs and the travel channels and the Discovery Shark Weeks and all of that fun stuff. So I get to go play in the ocean and swim with sharks and run around the world to amazing locations and call that work. So I am very fortunate in that space.
Absolutely. And the list of networks that you have worked with, I mean, it's just countless. It just, you really run out of pages, really. And what you've done, it's just really cool. I mean, from expeditions, and it's just not sharks, and it's just crazy. And for people that may not know you, I hope that they will just bombard, find out who you are, your Instagram, your webpage, because what you've done, you're leaving footprints, like massive footprints, in a lot of different, you're welcome, in a lot of different areas, which I think is amazing. And how did this journey of Tiger Queen even begin?
Well, my gosh, I was a very feral child. I was a total little tomboy that was always messy, dirty, and not much has changed. I think there's probably dirt under my nails now. And my dad was a geologist. My mom knows the Latin name of every plant. And we came from Poland to the United States in 1981 and basically just started exploring. We had this big blue van and we would drive around the country. And my dad would take photos of me with roadkill because he was fascinated by everything. Best way to see animals, by the way, is when they're there on the road. And we would also save animals from the road, and we were just this very quirky wildlife and nature oriented family. And career wise, I always knew that I wanted to do something in that space. So I think I had 7 different majors in college, and
Wow.
ultimately ended up doing journalism because I thought I'd get to then kind of dive into everyone else's world and tell stories. And I always gravitated towards wildlife, nature, loved the ocean space. I mean, that was our vacations were in Florida as a kid. I couldn't get enough. And then when I learned about sharks, I thought, first I watched Jaws, was absolutely terrified. It's the scariest thing that ever happened to me. And then I got really curious and I thought, why am I so scared? I kind of want to go see these animals. So I did some cage diving and went, holy moly, this is all one big lie. Like they're not trying to eat me every second of the day. They're actually just, actually really amazing, super cool, beautiful animals that are just living their lives in the ocean. And I decided to go into shark conservation. And so I had the opportunity to meet Stephanie Brendel and join an organization called Shark Allies and started working in that space. And then because I was already a TV host and had worked for a lot of networks, I decided that I really wanted to work with Shark Week and do a
Wow.
very conservation science forward show. And in 2021, I got the opportunity to do that with the first Shark Week show we did called Tiger Queen. And we went out to Turks and Caicos and actually had the opportunity with Dr. Austin Gallagher and Beneath the Waves tag the first tiger shark there. And I
Wow.
love tiger
Wow.
sharks. So
Wow.
that was how Tiger Queen came to be.
Wow. Now, when you do expeditions, I kind of want to do a side question here. How is it? I know you have to mentally prepare for a great opportunity like Shark Week, but how do you have to mentally and emotionally prepare to get ready to see these massive, big 18, 20-foot tiger sharks? How is your mindset going into something like that?
Charles, that's actually a great question because we always say that with shark diving, you do have to be mentally very present. You have to be very calm. There's a big difference between having a fear of sharks and having a respect for sharks. It's almost like our world is so polarized in everything nowadays that people are like, they either want to absolutely eat you and kill you, or they're a fluffy hamster and I'm going to squeeze it and cuddle it. And the truth is, it's neither, is it? These
Right.
are wild
Right.
animals and they have instinct. So you don't need to be terrified of them, but you do need to treat them with respect. They're predators. You're not going to walk into a savannah and go, "Ooh, lion, I'm going to
Right.
cuddle you."
Right. Right.
So, bears, wolves, all animals. I mean, even a squirrel will bite you if you don't treat it with respect. So when you go into the water and you're diving with sharks, you should be experienced. You shouldn't just be like, huge shark, let me get in the water with it. You have to know their behaviors. You have to know how to respond to their behaviors. You have to be very aware and very present. You have to be very calm. You always hear that they can hear your heartbeat, and they can. They
Wow.
know, you have to, your movements have to be very slow. You don't want to splash around. You don't want to move away from them. They're like a dog. I have a Rottweiler, and if I ran, she would chase me because
Right.
that's her instinct.
Right.
And it's the
Right.
same thing with sharks. So you do have to be in a very good mental place. You have to be calm, relaxed, and you have to understand that these animals are neither your best friend nor this mindless killer. They are a wild creature that deserves your respect.
Wow. Now let's transition into we're underneath the water. What does it now? I mean, I swim, I'm a decent swimmer. I've never dived. What is it like just being under the water, knowing there's billions of gallons of water around you, what is the feeling like? And we'll get to the sharks in a minute, but what is the feeling like just being in that world of being under the water?
It's the best, Charles. I
Wow.
love it.
Wow.
I love scuba diving. I love free diving. I have to say, I gravitate more towards free diving. And free diving, for those who don't know, is apnea. So you're holding your own breath. You're not on a tank. You're breathing up, and on your own breath, you're diving, which is preferable when you're in the water with animals like sharks and whales because you're not bubbling. You can do rebreathers I'm not trained in rebreathers. You can do like the open circuit, so you're expelling air, or you can free dive, so you're on your breath, and it's just
Now,
and peaceful.
now what is rebreathers? What is that? What does that mean?
Rebreathers are technology that cycles the air, so it's a closed circuit system. And it's a very specific training for divers, much more advanced. You have people that do mixed gas. They go to extreme depths because oxygen becomes toxic at a certain level. So people have rebreathers at, I think it's trigas, but it's a closed circuit. So everything,
Hmm.
the nitrogen out of your breath is being purified and cycled back around. But you have to make sure that everything works perfectly.
I
So
would
that's
say,
not something that I'm trained in. So my option is either open circuit air or free diving on your own breath.
wow. Okay. And with free diving, I guess what is the deepest depth that you have went?
So, I mean, I am by no means the crazy experienced free diver. I do love it. So my depths are probably about 85, 90 feet that I can go to and hold my breath for a couple minutes. And I love it. It allows you to interact with animals because you're silent. So the animals will come closer. I also personally like it, especially if I'm in the water with big animals like sharks, because I feel like I can move with more fluidity, and you need to be facing them at all times. Again, they're predators, so they try to come up around behind you. And if they see that you're watching them, they're like, oh, you see me. Okay. So you want to be able to move very smoothly and fluidly when you're in the water.
And I think I would be so paranoid because you think that it's not like you're against a brick wall, right? And it's like anywhere you look, 360 degrees, they could come from any direction, right? And so I kind of want to go here too. Your family has very rich roots, right? And was that a huge reason that you really just wanted to be gun ho and learn all that you could, or was it just the fact that you was around so much, right? And it's just natural for you.
I think it's a little bit of both. It's nature versus nurture, right? So we all have both.
Okay.
My parents are both big nature lovers. My dad, a geologist in Europe, would go on big expeditions and would tell us those stories, and camping and hiking and being outdoors. That was what we did. Um, we would camp all over the country, and we would never fly anywhere. I mean, we couldn't afford it, first of all. So we would road trip and camp, and we wouldn't go to Disneyland because it's outrageously expensive.
Right.
And instead, we would go look for horseshoe crabs on the beach. And so that just kind of became a part of my wheelhouse as a kid, and
Wow.
being exposed to nature. And then I always had a very curious brain. So I wanted to see more and experience more and do more. And I, was this little rough and tumble kid that was very athletic. So I wanted to get into diving, and I would see people doing these things and be like, oh, I want to do that too. So I was just this curious kid, and just kind of came naturally to me to enter into that space.
Wow. Now, what is? I know I'm sure you have a plethora, but what is one good expedition that you all have went on as a family that you'll never forget?
Oh my goodness, that went on as a
One
family.
that just kind of pops to mind, right?
I mean, Florida was our getaway. And that was our really exotic. We couldn't afford to fly to Hawaii or to the Bahamas. So that
Right.
was kind of like, that's where we would go. So Florida has always been so close to my heart. And it was also the first time I saw a sea turtle. I remember seeing the man of war on the beaches. I remember seeing horseshoe crabs. So Florida to me was the place that just felt so exotic with all these amazing creatures and this warm water. And I
Wow.
loved it.
Wow. Wow. So when I think of accomplishments, how was it for you being what the first female host on the 33 years of Shark Week, right? How how did that come about? And can you share the story or no?
Yeah, of course. I was very lucky enough to do a show for Travel Channel called Lost in the Wild. And the production company that I worked with, Ping Pong Productions, also had done a lot of Shark Week shows. And they knew that I loved sharks, that I worked in that space, that I really enjoyed it. So we got together and pitched some shows to Discovery. And I got to do that, and I felt so truly lucky. Now they've had different celebrities on who are women, and they've had amazing female scientists. So I'm
Right,
definitely not the first woman to ever be on Shark Week,
right,
but
right.
there had never been a female host with her own show. So that really that meant the world to me. And Casey, the owner of Ping Pong, like gave this amazing talk when we started filming
Wow.
that, and kind of talked about like us making history, and it was really really cool. And then I was so proud of that show because Shark Week, in all honesty, people know this. Like Shark Week kind of runs the gauntlet of having some shows that are very dramatic and celebrity driven, and they've even gotten flack from scientists and conservationists for their portrayal of sharks. But then on the other hand, they also have some really amazing shows. And the scientists that I've had the opportunity to work with are some of the most passionate people out there about sharks. And even our underwater cameramen, Mark Rackley and Fo, like those guys love sharks. So everyone involved in the production of Shark Week that I've had the opportunity to work with is incredibly passionate, not only about making these beautiful shows, but about the conservation and actual well-being of the animals. And our show in Turks and Caicos was very science forward, and I was really proud of how that turned out. And our new one that came out last year, Sharks in Paradise, where we were in Tahiti, also very much so was very scientific. And Dr. Tristan Guthridge was, an incredible human being to work
And it's that's a huge congratulations, and it's a huge accomplishment. You're welcome. And
with. Lucky.
it's truly, I mean, because that doesn't happen every day. And like you said, you've had different people to be on the show, but when it's truly you and you're hosting, that's another footprint that's just literally left in great knowledge. And I think what really takes the cake is when you have a great personality, you love what you do. That sets you apart from a lot of people, because I know a lot of people that either they're snobbish or they're arrogant or they're whatever. You could tell a person that takes the joy and love. And when you have a rich family and a rich heritage, that just makes the cake, And um, when you swim with sharks as well, this is a Shark Tooth page. Do you, because I know people are waiting for me to ask, do you collect teeth? Do you collect fossils? Do you collect shells? Do you have your own collection?
I wish I could actually give you a tour of my house because there are entire areas that are lined with shells and sea glass. And Charles, I knew what we were doing here today, so I actually brought some of
Oh,
my finds, and they are all here with me.
wow.
So I'll tell you, this is really cool. I had no idea that we could find teeth like, and these are, you must have way better ones than this. Mine are broken. These are megalodon teeth,
Okay.
but I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
bull sharks and all other kinds here. But the first time I learned that we have these meccas for finding fossilized shark's teeth was I was on a National Geographic show called America's Lost Treasures. And we were filming in Savannah, Georgia. And the premise of the show was people would come into the museums and they would present us with things that they found, be it artifacts or, something in the science world. And we would then go out with them and we would learn more about it. And one gentleman came in with his son and he had these megalodon teeth. And I just beelined for him and gravitated. And I was like, where did you find that? What is that? And he was like, right here in the Savannah River. And he then proceeded to explain to me about dredging the river and how they dump everything on shore. And then when the rains come, they wash it out. And I said, I got to do this. So I went with him. And Charles, I have to tell you, I thought he was dropping these teeth. And I went, is he doing this for the cameras? Like,
Right, right, right.
there's no way there's this many. And so I snuck off by myself and started finding. This is a baby mammoth milk tooth that I found.
Oh my
I
goodness.
found stingray barbs. I mean, all these amazing teeth. And
Wow.
most recently, for my new show, Finding Adventure, we went back to Savannah, and I was like, we have to do this. And we did another segment on finding the teeth, and I got to find more. They actually had to drag me out of there. They're like, Kinga, we got to go. We got to go film something else. And I'm like, no, there's more teeth. I know it. I got to stay.
Right.
So, yes, I have the same passion that you have. Now I'm gonna flip the script here for a second. I want to know how you got into this.
Okay. Wow. Sure. I remember going as a kid, right, to Myrtle, to whatever the beach it was. And I remember finding the baby teeth, right? Just your baby sand, pretty much here on the Carolina coast. You find a lot of your sand tiger, the pointy ones, your
And
dusky
were those fossilized or just
fossilized. Most of what we found on the coast is going to be fossilized. Some are more modern, very rare. You have the Carolina creams that are more white and creamish, but I got into it because you find the baby teeth. See, I was going to ask, well, we'll get to that in a minute, right? So I remember finding my baby teeth, just a young little lad, and so it grew. So we did a week vacation every year. So my mom and I would have this competition who could find the most teeth, right? Like, you're getting sunburnt, man. You're out there sweaty, you're hot, you're missing meals. And then it became a friendly competition to more serious. Well, then I remember meeting, and I will not, cannot forget these names that were very integral. Long story short, one gentleman's name was Raymond, another was Shark Tooth Dave, another Shark Tooth Tom, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name. I never will forget the advice. One was get an orange shovel, taught me how to do it.
An orange shovel?
An orange shovel, that way you could see what you're getting, right? Because here we have the settlement and it could be black. So the long story short, I took the knowledge from a kid and it grew. So back then you didn't have YouTube, right? You had the unfriendly, what are you looking for? Nothing, right? So I got tired of like nothing. So I went out, got Ashley Oliphant's book, and which is now is a great friend of mine. And so all this different knowledge, right? So it grew and grew and grew and grew and grew to an obsession. So now I don't really look for small stuff now. I look for the stuff like you have now because I don't break my back and get the small stuff. So I kind of got started by being inquisitive and wow, what's this shiny black thing, right? So
how many teeth do you think you found at this point?
I mean, the 10, 20, 30,000s probably.
So if you turn the camera around, are you just buried up to here in shark's teeth in your house? Are they just everywhere?
Actually, like I said, I wish I could show you because I have them really cool display cases. I have total blues, I have whites, I have blacks, I have browns, I have tans, by the different areas. So nothing like what you have. Can you insert that back on the screen again? That
one?
The white one use.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's pretty cool, right?
Now, was that fresh falling out or did you find it?
No, I think this is actually, well, this one, the enamel on this one does look, this one was found in Savannah with all of these other ones.
Wow.
But to be honest, this one actually does not look fossilized because I do have one over there that is the cream color and it is a fossil. So the lady that we went out with, and I wish I could remember her name because I love respecting the people like you who teach us. And we went out with this amazing lady and she's a naturalist and she was telling us all about teeth. And she was saying that it takes, sometimes without carbon dating and really getting in there as a scientist, you don't know how old they are, but you know that they are at least 10,000 years old.
Absolutely.
That is the length of time. I learned that in Savannah just recently, that is the length of time that it requires to make a fossil. So every one of these teeth that are fossilized are at least 10,000 years old, which just
mind blowing, right? And now, will this intrigue you to when you're around the sharks now? Which I mean, it'd be impossible. Now, are you in areas though that it's not as deep that you think if you're not too deep, you might kind of look for teeth that's falling out, fresh ones?
Yeah, absolutely. Like even when we were in Tahiti and we were with the tigers, I mean, the reef system there is so, oh gosh, the reef system in Tahiti is phenomenal. So
Wow.
if the teeth were to fall out, they fall into little cracks and crevices. So it would be quite hard to find. But sometimes you do find them on the beach, and that's pretty darn cool. Like, as I'm sure you're aware too, when you tell people all the time, like, I always ask people not to buy jewelry with teeth that are obviously not fossilized, because you don't know where they came from and you don't know where they were sourced. So people obviously fish sharks. We don't love that. They take the jaws and they do things with the teeth. So I'm a lot more hesitant of teeth that are not fossilized. But obviously, if someone is out on the beach and they find a tooth, then fair game, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Sharks are just
Absolutely.
dropping them all day, every day. It's all
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. Do you get to go back to, do you still have a lot of family in Poland still? Or,
I do, but they're distant. When we came in '81, I was 5 years old, and the Iron Curtain went up. We came in October. The Iron Curtain went up in November, so we couldn't go back, and we couldn't see our family for 10 years. So my
wow.
sister and I kind of lost contact with a lot of the family there. So it was always just me, my mom, my dad, and my sister here. And my dad passed away a few years ago, so it's kind of the three of us now. And my grandparents passed away in Poland, so we don't really
Wow.
know a lot of our family in Poland, unfortunately.
Wow. 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 Is the tiger shark, is that your favorite species of shark? It
I
is?
mean, I'm so hard pressed, because
Yeah.
I when we were filming in Turks and Caicos, and we were waiting for the tigers to come in, this incredible great hammerhead came in,
Oh,
and
wow.
she and I went face to face. I dropped down. I was free diving, and it was quite shallow. And I remember that the current was pushing me towards her. And you can even see in the show, there's a scene. I dig my hands into the sand and hold myself, because I thought, ooh, she's coming at me. I'm coming at her. Like, I probably don't need to collide face to face
Right.
with her. I want to give her her space. And I just, gosh, she is incredible. So great hammerheads are so beautiful. Great white sharks are amazing, but I do have a fondness for tigers, and also they love warm water, and so do I. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
get along well.
Now, is there a particular thing? Now, this is funny. I do want to share this story. I shared it. I was meeting a couple people yesterday at the beach, and this is really cool, I think. There was, of course, children in the water, and I haven't been in the water for quite some time because I know what's out there. Not because I'm afraid of it, because I respect what's out there. And because, they're inquisitive, and by the time they realize their inquisitiveness, I might have this gall. Right? So, but
Fair.
but I still get in the water, now maybe not neck deep like I used to when I was a kid. But anyhow, there was young children, 5, 6, 7 years old. And just coincidentally, I happened to be looking, and about 50 yards out, this spinner shark comes, and he's about 8 feet.
Oh,
He comes up and he spins and he jumps, comes back down. First thing is like, oh my gosh, because he was not far from the kids at all. Well, I walk off from the people I'm speaking to go tell the mom. And I hear a gasp again, another one even closer to the children. I'm like, you know what? Friendly advice. There's a couple spinning sharks about 50 yards out. So you might want to bring your kids in just for a little bit. I'm not saying take them out the water completely, but it's just being very mindful. I mean, we're in their backyard, that's
yeah,
their
they're
home,
home.
and we're in it enjoying ourselves. And now being on Shark Week, and I know you know a lot of information. Can you soothe a lot of people's minds? Of course, shark bites do happen, but what is the probability rate of them just going out in a full-fledged pit bull attack, because they do get a bad rap.
They do get a bad rap, and I don't fault people for that. It's incredibly primal, isn't it? First of all, the ocean isn't our environment. A lot of people are not familiar with the ocean. A lot of people aren't comfortable in the ocean. It's a foreign world, and there are big fish with very sharp teeth in there. So when you look at it from that perspective, I never fault people. I never go, wow, gosh, I totally don't understand why you're scared of sharks.
Right.
I get it. From a statistical standpoint, you've got all the funny statistics, like more people are killed by falling vending machines, and toilets. Toilets, in fact, kill more people than sharks every year. I don't know how that happens. I really don't. Like,
Really? Wow.
I'd like to be informed, but very embarrassing way to go, I'm sure. But yes, so you think about, we love dogs. Well, Google some numbers. Like, I have a Rottweiler. Rottweilers take out more people every year than sharks do, and we
Yeah.
love them. So it's almost elephants. Elephants kill more people every year. We love elephants, lions, tigers, bears, bees. All these things kill more people every year than sharks do. I mean, I believe the number is like less than 6 people a year when it comes
Wow.
to sharks. Is it an incredibly terrifying way to go? Yes, I'm sure. Are sharks predating on us? No. As a matter of fact, I remember Dr. Austin Gallagher, and I have to credit him with this. He called them the most patient predators. And I thought that's a really great way of putting it, because I have, footage and images of me swimming next to a tiger shark where I could touch it. I don't touch sharks because I don't feel that that's an appropriate thing to do. But I could, me to you, like I could, boop, there's a shark.
Right.
I couldn't do that with a lion. It would eat me. I
Right.
couldn't do that with a grizzly bear. It would eat me. So sharks are in fact a lot more patient than most other predators out there. But they are predators. They're not vegan. They're not out there eating seaweed.
Right.
They eat
Right.
things that happen to, like, great white sharks. What do they eat? They eat sea lions. What do we look like in wetsuits? Sea lions. I understand that. It's incredibly logical. There's understanding shark behavior and shark habitats. And here I live in Los Angeles, and the ocean's right over there. And I know that there is a time of year when we have a lot of great whites here. The big great whites come in, usually around September, end of summer, September.
Wow.
Or when Guadalupe Island was open, there was a season for the sharks going there. So you are aware. We also have, I mean, thousands of great whites that live here, hundreds, I would say, year round, the pups. And we really don't have a lot of incidents. If they wanted to eat humans, first of all, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here.
All right.
Anyone who's ever been in the ocean wouldn't be here.
We want to stand a chance.
We've got divers. We've got free divers. Those are spear guns. We spearfish. We put ourselves, myself, my boyfriend Mark, like all my friends, we put ourselves in a position to interact with these animals all the time and be in their space, and we're still here. So that should tell you more than anything that they are not after us. Do things happen? Yeah. Is it mistaken identity? It sure is. Does that really suck? Yes, absolutely. I would never want. I mean, look at the size of these. No, thank you. But they're animals. If I pull up my dog's teeth, look at my teeth. I've got teeth.
Right.
Remember, Jacques Cousteau famously said, someone said to him about sharks devouring their food, and he goes, "Well, here's my breakfast. I'm about to devour that."
Right.
That's what
Right.
we do. We eat.
Absolutely. Now, let's go here for a second, because it is a lot of mistaken identity, and sharks are so powerful and so explosive. How is their eyesight? Is it, like kind of tunnel vision for them when it's so far out? And is it like a dog when they lock into their prey, that's all they see? How is their sight?
Well, different sharks have different hunting methodologies and strategies. So, great white sharks, for instance, they are stalking ambush predators. Basically, the way it works with great whites is they love, because after a certain size they eat fish, and then after a certain size they'll go to pinnipeds. So elephant seals, sea lions, seals, all sorts of things, marine mammals, right?
Okay.
And the way they stalk is they will go deep, and they love ledges, and they will patrol that. And then when they see something, they shoot up and they hit. It's impact. And it's, a way for them to protect themselves as well, because their eyes are very sensitive. They need their eyes. And if you've ever been near sea lions, they have big canines, they've got claws, they can tear at that shark. So what they try to do is they try to impact it, hit it, kill it, let it bleed out, and they'll come back and eat it. Tiger sharks and other big sharks have different ways of predating. Bull sharks, I think bull sharks are kind of one of the top sharks that people have unfortunate encounters with, and that is because bull sharks love murky water. They love river mouths, so they can't see. They might very well mistake you for a fish. Something's moving around and they hit. You have oceanic white tips, which are some of my favorite sharks also, but they're also sharks that I will never turn my back on. Those are pelagic sharks, and those guys are always hungry, because the pelagic space, which is basically open ocean, it's like a desert. So there's not a lot of food out there. And when they see something, they're like, "What is that? Are you edible? I'm going to test you." There's a scene in Tiger or Sharks in Paradise, the new one we did, where we were in the water in Tahiti with an oceanic white tip. And a lot of the big sharks, like tiger sharks, I will use my hands to redirect them. If they come into you you can't let the shark push you back because then its instincts will kick in. So you've got to move that shark. Sometimes you've even got to intercept it, come to it before it opens its mouth and rolls back its eyes, and you move it with both hands. You move it, you push it down and away. With the oceanics and with some smaller sharks that are move really fast, I don't like to use my hands because they could hit your hand really easily. So I'll usually use my fin and kind of block that way. This girl pushed past my fin and I had to move her with my hand.
Oh my
So
goodness.
different sharks have different ways of hunting. They see quite well. Their senses are on it. You know, I don't know about the whole, I think it's been disproven that they can smell a drop of blood in an Olympic sized swimming pool. But they definitely know when something's going on, and they will show up. So got to know how to interact.
Absolutely. Now, with all that being said, what are some interesting, like, new things that we may not know that you've learned about sharks, that may be like a new study or just new knowledge, or is anything that you've learned personally that may be new that you didn't know years ago?
I mean, there are so many cool facts about sharks. And the neat thing that I really love is that we are constantly still learning about them. So there are fascinating things like this population of sharks that we were studying in French Polynesia. They've never been tagged. So we actually don't know, and they're mostly females off of the island of Tiki How, where we were. Those are mostly females. We don't know where they migrate to. We don't know where they pup. We don't know where the males come in from. We can only speculate. No one to this day has ever seen a great white shark mate or give birth. So that's absolutely fascinating. We're learning so much more. One of the things that I think from a conservation standpoint that is so important and interesting is that we have all these amazing marine protected areas. And now, because technology is getting so much better and the tags we're able to put on sharks are so much more efficient, we're learning that these marine protected areas are great. But, you know, sharks don't look at it and go, wait a minute, hold on, let me look at my map. The marine protected area ends here. Definitely can't go out there.
Where am I safe at? Right.
Yeah, where am I safe? My safe. And so they have these migratory corridors, and scientists are now starting to prove that we have sharks that are regularly moving between, say, Malpelo, Colombia, Cocos Island in Costa Rica, the Galapagos, and even up to the Sea of Cortez. And so we have these amazing migratory routes where these sharks basically go across the entire ocean. And that's so important to know that because we need to protect those as well. So many interesting things.
Wow.
You know, since you're a shark tooth page, I think one of the cool facts about sharks that a lot of people don't know is, you know, people talk about how rough shark skin is, and I'm sure you know this. So a shark's skin is composed of dermal denticles, which basically are tiny little teeth. If you looked at shark skin under a microscope, it's teeny tiny little teeth, and that's why it's so rough and feels like sandpaper.
No, I never knew that. I knew that the whole, but I never knew that. Wow, like small. Now I'm assuming they're made that way to help them maneuver through the water.
Yeah,
Better?
very exactly, very efficient. Yeah, very efficient. Wow. Their skin's really rough, and sharks have really thick skin because they battle each other. Their mating rituals are incredibly rough. So a lot of times the females of species will have thicker skin because of that.
Now, with that being said, I thought about this a couple of weeks ago, so I've got to ask you this, and it might be a silly question. I'm sure they do, but do sharks, I guess, do sharks sleep, and do every species of shark sleep, I guess? Like, do they actually like take a nap or sleep, or?
Not the way that we do. So there are certain species of sharks, like you have nurse sharks, you have white tip, reef sharks, that can actually lay in the sand and they pump their gills. So sharks breathe by the water moving over their gills, and they extract oxygen from that. So certain shark species will rest, and they will, even I think Jacques Cousteau has this, one of his, the Voyage of the Calypso is like the caves of the sleeping sharks. And sleep is a relative term because we sleep. They don't sleep the way we do, but they do rest, some species. Other species have to keep moving at all times. So when you're looking like at a lot of the pelagic sharks, a lot of the bigger sharks, great whites, tiger sharks, hammerheads, oceanic white tips, they constantly have to be moving so that their gills are oxygenated. Even when we do things like tag sharks, a lot of times when you bring them over to the boat, you tag them, and these scientists are like a NASCAR pit crew. and then you need to get them back in the water as quickly as possible so they can revive. Because you flip them over, you put them in a tonic immobility, which is kind of that trance-like state. But then sometimes they'll run them along the boat. They'll move the boat really slowly so that the sharks reoxygenate. Or when we were in Turks and Caicos, the tiger shark that we tagged, we let her go and she started to sink. And I was like, no, 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 no. So I jumped in and pushed her and held her. And I had to do it 3 times for her to like wake up, revive, and start swimming.
Wow.
So there are certain species that just they can't stop because they have to constantly move that water over their gills.
Now, for the bigger sharks, what is like for the great whites and the tigers? What is the age limit for them, or what is their lifespan?
Gosh, let's see. I don't want to give you incorrect information. With tiger sharks, I mean, they can live a long time. So I would say, you know what? Let's Google that really quickly. I
Good.
know that tigers, I want to say 70 years, but I don't want to give you
That's
an
amazing.
incorrect tiger shark lifespan. Let's see, maximum size, 2,000 pounds, approximately 7 to 10 feet. It's made 30 years, 30 plus years for tiger
Wow.
sharks.
But
And that also varies, you know, because sharks don't have bones, they have cartilage. So it's difficult to tell. I mean, we know the Greenland shark is one of the longest living species that can live like, they say hundreds of years, but they're not sure.
right, right.
Great white sharks, I know can live a very, very long time as well. So these big species of sharks can live a long time, but it's also about how quickly they reproduce and how many pups they can have and how quickly they reproduce. So that's all contributes to the viability of the species.
Okay. Okay. And are we seeing still? I know at one point in time, you know, you had the sawfish for the blade or the saw. Are we seeing a more population in sharks overall? Are we still having a huge thing? What it is for the fins? Are we seeing an increase or a decrease right now?
Well, overall, sharks are definitely still decreasing. I mean, there are areas that are protected, like great whites are protected. And so we're seeing an uptick of them. We're seeing an increase of them. And also because sea lions are protected, so their food source is protected. So it depends on the area. Overall, we are still declining because we still have habitat loss. We have overfishing. We have commercial fishing with bycatch that is just the saddest thing ever. Obviously, shark fin soup, 100 million sharks we lose every year for shark fin soup alone.
My goodness.
Squalene is something else. You know, we as shark allies always ask people to educate themselves on products because you have to be careful. Like, here's me putting on my chapstick probably 4 times in the time we've been doing this because I love chapstick. But you have to be really careful about what's in your products because squalene can be extracted from plants, but squalene can also be extracted from sharks. It's from the shark's liver.
Mm.
And that decimates shark populations as well. So shark cartilage is sold as remedies, and people for the longest time said sharks don't get cancer. So if we eat shark parts and shark cartilage, we won't get cancer. It's actually not true. So, you know, as we know with everything like rhino horn and tiger parts and shark parts, these are not medications. These are not remedies. These are not going to cure you of cancer. They are not, you know, going to give you superhuman strength. It's just a very unfortunate thing. And obviously shark fin soup is, you know, people defend it because they say, oh, it's cultural. Well, I've got news for you. There was a time in history when foot binding and slavery was considered cultural. So culture is not really something that a word that I go, wow, okay, let's just go with that.
Right.
Because a lot of bad things have been done historically in the name of culture. So that is a very unfortunate one. So to answer your question, yes, shark populations are still declining. Like blue sharks used to be the most abundant shark in the ocean. I've seen maybe 3 off the coast of California. And I've been living here for 20 years, and I don't really see that many of them anymore because their populations have dropped, sadly.
Wow. Wow. What is, now I should have asked this a little earlier. What is the largest shark while you've been diving that you all have ever encountered? Doesn't matter the species, is what is the largest you think you've ever seen?
Whale shark. So whale shark is the largest shark.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to see those off of Isla Mujeres in Mexico, where it's one of the largest populations of sharks. And they come in the summer, and there can be 400 of them. And they're coming in to feed on plankton and bonito tuna eggs. So they're basically vegetarian. They're eating tiny things. They're not interested in us at all, but they are just incredible. They are so beautiful with those spots, and they are so they're
Wow.
really, really cool to be able to
I,
observe.
I would have to say that's probably, and like you said, it's been the whole argument. Is it a shark? Is it a fish? Right. For years, but that's probably my favorite. I'll call it shark, of all time. I can't even imagine just the sheer size. I mean, what, 60, whatever feet long. I mean, that's ridiculous, man. And it's just, I couldn't even imagine just one swipe from the tail. I could imagine you have to keep your distance. Are they very just temperamental? Are they very just laid back?
They're quite chill. They move very slowly. They're big with their mouths open. But again, we always advocate to give animals and wild animals a lot of space, a lot of respect. You don't want to interfere with them feeding. You don't want to interfere with them migrating. You just don't want to interfere with their life. So we give them a good distance, but also they are massive animals. Sharks, whales. I don't want to get swatted with that tail. It could break your arm. Like the shark, if it gets spooked, whale sharks can move quite fast when they want to.
Hmm.
With that giant tail, it'd break your arm. So you want to be cautious and give that animal space. But they are amazing to be.
Wow. And see that just makes me a little jealous. But again, I'm not a diver, you know what I mean?
But with whale sharks, you don't have to be. You snorkel with them. As a matter of fact, you're not allowed to dive with them because they
oh,
come to the surface to feed. And you don't want to drop down because that intimidates them. So you actually can't scuba dive with them or even really free dive. I mean, you could drop down a little bit, but it's all snorkeling. So Isla Mujeres and Isla Halbosh off of the Yucatan Peninsula. So you fly into Cancun and you get out there, it's the best place to see whale sharks.
wow. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What is, besides sharks, is there like just a crazy or a wild encounter that you've experienced of like just being in the ocean, like a really sketchy situation? Like, oh, how am I going to get out of this?
Um, I've had two. One recently, not even sketchy, but just like, oh my goodness. And usually when a situation is sketchy, it's because we've created that scenario.
Okay.
We had one. My boyfriend and I love to dive and travel, and he loves to spearfish, and I'm always filming. And we were in Costa Rica over New Year, and we were hunting tuna. And so when you hunt tuna, you're on a boat, and you're usually looking for like a floating seaweed patty or something like that, or spinner dolphins, because a lot of
Okay.
times they'll be together. And so the boat slows down, engine stops, but there's still lots of bubbles in the water from the propeller. And we jump in. As the bubbles start to clear, I see Mark in front of me, and I'm like, what is happening right now? And I start to focus, and I see this tuna circling him, basically using him for protection. And following the tuna is a marlin. And I'm like, oh my God. And this marlin is circling Mark. And we're talking about a billfish. And I'm like, is he going to get impaled in a second? And this tuna is chasing him and is like zipping around him and hiding under his arm. And this marlin is circling. You can tell the marlin's kind of confused and is like, do I get in there and take that tuna? What do I do? So then they come to me and I'm like, oh, no, no, no. And I keep marlin is just following this tuna. So that was an epic encounter.
Yes.
I mean, the ocean just gives. I was in Tahiti with my friends, and a little baby humpback surfaced and came over, looked right at me, and I started spinning, and he started spinning, and we just played.
Wow.
And I had off of Socorro in Mexico, we jumped in the water, and I didn't have any gear on. And usually, when you're with sharks, you're pretty geared up because the whites of your hands they would recognize as the inside of a fish. It might be more attractive than you want it to be, so you wear gloves. You're fully geared up. And we
Okay.
were looking at falls killer whales, and we didn't have time to gear up. And I jumped in the water, and a silky shark came over to me and was pretty amped up because they were following the false killer whales. And so it was in predatory mode, and it came over to me and started darting in. And I was like, oh no, this is bad. This is real bad. And I had to start throwing punches. And finally, the dive master saw what was happening and like swam over and grabbed me and moved me away. And the shark was like, eh, and swam off. And I was
Wow.
like, that was on me. That was stupid. I shouldn't have been in the water without gear.
Wow. Wow. And now that makes sense now. I think about it. I don't remember seeing too many divers that has, you know, And I'm sure it would, if the flash of, they say, oh, target,
Exactly, because
um,
the inside of the fish, it's white flesh. So when they see like our hands and our feet, they're instinctually going, oh, is that a fish? Let me look. And they can't, they don't have hands. They can't go, oh, nope, that's not a fish. They have big mouths with large teeth.
right. So I know you've done a lot of filming, a lot of things going on. Do you have anything current you're working on or something we need to be looking for in the future?
So we just finished our second season of Finding Adventure that just finished airing, and then the third season is going to start airing in August. So that's Finding Adventure, and that's a lot of fun. That's on the app, very local, which is free, and we do all kinds of stuff, including diving with sharks. And that's what we went to Savannah for, and we're looking for shark's teeth. Actually, I don't think that episode has aired yet. That one will probably be in August. And
Okay.
then we're always in talks with Discovery about doing our next shark show. So I hope that I get to do another one for next year, and
Absolutely.
developing projects in the ocean space. And it's just the space that I love so much.
Absolutely. And for people, again, this is Kinga Philipps. For the ones that are wondering, who is this lady? You may know her from a lot of different networks, the Tiger Queen from Shark Week. And it's, she just look her up. You can follow on Instagram. She has a webpage, she's Facebook, she's all over the place. A wonderful, wonderful host, a wonderful what you would call interviewee. And she's taking the time to come out. Very busy lady, but very humble, as you can see. What is something that you could, because this is vacation time, right? All the beaches, the spring breaks, the graduations, what is something that I think we overlook a lot? And I'll give a couple things and maybe you can hit on them.
Yeah.
You see a lot of schooling fish. People don't even know they're around them. Obviously, you're just doing catching your waves. You'll see sandbars. You'll see a lot of things. What is something that we need to really look for when we're out there in the ocean? Because again, if you're on the East Coast, unless you're down in the Gulf, you're not really looking down and seeing what's next to you. So what is something that we kind of need to look forward to as caution signs? Or part B is, if we're in the water, what do we do if a shark is right here with us? So
good questions. Well, first of all, I'd say be safe driving to the beach, because that's probably the most dangerous part of your day. So wear your seatbelt and be safe on your drive to the beach. When you're at the beach, you made a really good point. Schooling fish. When you see, we call them bait balls, and sometimes you'll see dolphins, sometimes you'll see birds diving in. That usually indicates that there's a food source. And obviously sharks like to eat, as do we. And if there are schooling fish, that's a good idea to move away from there. If you're in an area where there are pinnipeds, meaning sea lions, seals, I try to avoid swimming with seals and seal colonies unless I'm specifically there to dive with them. And then I'm cautious because I know that that's a food source. If there is a shark next to you, and if you happen to be in the water and you see a shark, the best thing that you can do is probably the hardest thing to do for most people, and that's to stay calm. Because there's no faster way to attract a shark and to kick in its instincts than to splash around and go, oh my God, it's a shark, I gotta get out of here and swim. Don't swim away from the shark like that. It will follow you most likely. Calm, very calm, swim slowly backwards. Make sure that the shark knows that you see it, because they are predators. Most sharks don't care. Most sharks will be like, oh, what's that? Oh, boring. I'm moving on. If the shark is interested in you, calm. If it comes close, redirect. Push down on its head. The chances of that actually ever happening to you and you being in that position and needing to do that if you were not a diver and you don't seek out sharks on the regular are probably incredibly slim. And there, realistically, you have much greater of a chance of stepping on a stingray. So we call it here in Marina del Rey in Venice, we call it the stingray shuffle. So when you go into the water, you shuffle your feet because it really hurts to step on a stingray. Be careful of that. Be careful of man of war and jellyfish.
I was going to say jellyfish.
Be careful of rip currents. There are so many other things in the ocean that should concern you more than sharks. But I think the bait ball one is a really good one. Look, seals, that's another one. Murky water. I tell people avoid river mouths. You don't really need to swim in a river mouth. That's usually where the bull sharks are, and that's a visibility thing.
Oh, a lot of people, my wife has a cousin that went to Costa Rica, and one of the worst, like, they went there for the ocean. Well, unfortunately, he passed away. He was young. He got caught in a massive current that was the worst ever that particular day. Five of them was caught out. Well, he wasn't even a good swimmer. So he goes out to catch the waves the first time ever. He was at 17, 18 years old. I think three of them were saved, but two unfortunately lost their life. So, what is something as a diver, as a swimmer? What is something if someone were to get caught out because you don't realize it until you're out, right? And I know we swim parallel, but what are some things for people that may not swim well? What is something they can do, especially if it isn't lifeguard season or they're not near lifeguards? What or how do they do?
I'm so sorry to hear that. That is
Thank
that
you.
is so tragic. I actually know a girl who lost her life in Costa Rica on a rip current as well, and
Wow.
it happens a lot there. There are certain beaches that are just much more prone to that, and that's a really good thing to have a conversation about actually. So if you are not a strong swimmer, first and foremost, go out to your waist and no deeper. The ocean is an incredible place, but it can also be very dynamic and it changes very quickly. I see people standing on rocks that are obviously really wet and they don't understand the concept of set waves. And they don't see that there are small waves coming in, but set waves, there are usually three of them and they're bigger than the rest, will come in a rhythm and they can easily sweep you off a rock. So if you're ever on a beach and you see that there's a water line or you see rocks that are wet, know that that's probably how far the water comes up. If you're not a good swimmer, just wear a life jacket or don't go out past your waist and know that when the waves come in they can easily knock you off your feet. Rip currents can be really scary because you're out there swimming and all of a sudden you're getting sucked out to the ocean. The way most people die in rip currents is they start to panic, and you are never going to fight a rip current. You are never going to be able to swim back in. I mean, unless it dissipates and you can, but that's how most people drown, is they start to panic and they get really tired. And you said it, you swim parallel to the shore because rip currents can go really far out to sea, but they're usually pretty narrow. So if you can keep that calm state of mind, and we always talk about that in survival situations anyway, is calm, be calm. Whatever the situation is, do your best, even if it's hard to be calm, and swim parallel to the shore. And eventually you will get out of that current. And it probably won't take you very long. And then calmly swim back. You can also, do the float. Instead of wasting your energy, you can float. If there is a lifeguard, get their attention. If there's not a lifeguard, it's up to you to come in. So again, don't go out there if you're not a good swimmer. You do get caught, parallel to the shore, calmly take your time and come back in.
And I think sometimes for the non-swimmers, and I thought about this, I think the false security is we have our boogie boards, we have our floaties, and you have the long rafts and stuff, and we get so far out before we realize that you're 50 yards out, you're 70 yards out, you're 100 yards out, and you can't swim, you get knocked off, something happens, and we get so far away. Now you're truly in panic mode. And so again, like Kinga said, we were out at the beach yesterday and they didn't realize how far they were out because unfortunately we have like the low tides and the high tides here. Low tide, but they didn't realize, you're so like, what's the first thing the lifeguard does? Beep, beep. Come on in, because now we make their job harder because they're swimming a half mile out to get you now. And so, but yeah, it's no joke. And even if you're in 3 feet of water, you feel the pull, right? Just even on this. So can you imagine being out there caught in the rip current that's just sucking like a vacuum? So, but
the ocean is powerful. The waves will come in and they will, even if it's shallow, they will sweep you off your feet. We have, it's very unfortunate. Like here in Marina del Rey in Venice, our beaches are packed during the summer, and every year people drown because they get out there in conditions that they really don't understand, and those waves really powerful.
They are.
Respect the ocean, respect her power.
Absolutely. This has been, believe it or not, an hour already, man. An hour. I want to say this. This is a cool question. This would be my final question. What is the smallest shark you've encountered? I know we have the leopard and stuff like that, but what is like the absolute smallest you've ever encountered?
We've had some pretty little leopard sharks out here. They are so beautiful off the coast of California. Their patterning is so pretty. But we also have horn sharks. And those guys are really little and they're super cute. And they just kind of hang out on the bottom. And they've got these little bumps on their heads. And that's probably the smallest that I've seen.
Wow.
And they're just really cute. I mean, there are so many neat species of sharks that are have so much wow factor, from the biggest to the smallest. And I really love them all.
Absolutely. And hopefully this is like part one. Maybe we sometime in the future can do part two or something.
Maybe we can get together and go look for shark's teeth.
Absolutely.
In that area.
Hey, we've got to make it happen. We've got to make it happen.
Yeah.
Kinga, thank you so much for your time. Your hospitality has been amazing. And if you all want to follow her, you may do so. This will be going up on YouTube, and I'll add all the links in the description. But Kinga, where can they find you?
I mostly use Instagram.
Okay.
I got off of TikTok and Twitter. So I have Facebook and I have Instagram. Those are my social media platforms.
And your .com, of course. But again, let's follow her. This is the last question. Will you be writing or coming out with any like new books or anything anytime soon?
Ooh, well, I do articles. So I was actually just in talks to write an article about some really amazing spearfishing and freediving women in Tahiti. So that might be the next article I'm writing. But I oftentimes will write articles about the places that I go to, like the Marquesas or Panama, and just because it's fun. And it helps me to be creative and also remember the experience.
So let's look forward to what she has. Hopefully, like she said, we can see her next year on Shark Week. Thank you again so much. It's been wonderful. It's been amazing. You're welcome. And hopefully we'll catch this on a part two sometime, or maybe we'll be on the beach somewhere. You never know. But thanks so much again, King. I hope you all have enjoyed this. Enjoy you all's evening. We'll catch you next time. Happy hunting. See you next time.